Welcome to Still Science Lab. Tonight, we are going to dismantle the most fundamental aspect of your reality. We are going to take the clock that ticks on your wall, the calendar that hangs in your kitchen, and the very beating of your heart, and we are going to expose them for what they truly are, a biological hallucination. We are here to answer a question that sounds like a contradiction, a statement that defies every instinct you possess as a living being. We are here to explore why the future has already happened. This is not a metaphor. This is not a poetic interpretation of destiny. We are talking about the cold, hard architecture of the universe as revealed by modern physics. Tonight, we confront the terrifying possibility that time is an illusion, and that the moments you have yet to live are already sitting in the dark, waiting for you to arrive. To understand why the future is already written, we must first understand why it feels like it isn't. The human experience of time is incredibly powerful and undeniably persuasive. We feel it as a flow, a relentless current that drags us from the past, pushes us through the present, and propels us toward an uncertain future. We call this the river of time. It is the sensation that reality is a fleeting, ephemeral thing. We believe that the past is gone, vanished into the ether of memory, accessible only through the fading neural pathways of our brains. We believe that the future is non-existent, a void of pure potential that has not yet been formed, waiting for our choices and the roll of the dice to bring it into being. And stuck between these two voids is the now, the razor-thin edge of reality where we live, breathe, and think. This intuitive model of time is the foundation of our entire worldview. It is how we organize our societies, how we process our grief, and how we plan our lives. We mourn the dead because we believe they have ceased to exist in the real world. We fear the future because we believe it is unwritten and uncontrollable. We cherish the present because we feel it is the only thing that is truly real. But physics suggests that this entire model, the river, the flow, the vanishing past, and the unformed future, is a lie. It is a deception created by our biology to help us survive in a complex world, but it has nothing to do with the true nature of the cosmos. The deconstruction of this illusion began with a man who dared to look at the universe not as a machine of moving parts, but as a unified geometric structure. Albert Einstein did not just revolutionize our understanding of gravity and light, he fundamentally broke our understanding of time. Before Einstein, we viewed time as Isaac Newton did, as a master clock ticking away in the background of the universe, ticking the same for everyone, everywhere. In Newton's world, now was a universal cosmic line that cut across the entire universe at once. But Einstein proved that this master clock does not exist. He showed us that space and time are not separate entities, but are woven together into a single fabric called spacetime. And in this fabric, the distinction between before and after is not absolute. There is a moment in history that perfectly encapsulates this shift from the intuitive to the eternal. In 1955, Einstein's lifelong friend, Michel Besso, passed away. In a letter of condolence to Besso's family, written just weeks before his own death, Einstein offered a comfort that was rooted not in religion, but in physics. He wrote, "Now he has departed from this strange world a little ahead of me. That means nothing. People like us, who believe in physics, know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." This phrase, a stubbornly persistent illusion, is the key to unlocking the mystery we are facing tonight. Einstein was not speaking poetically. He was speaking literally. In the eyes of physics, the universe is not a three-dimensional place that changes over time. It is a four-dimensional block where everything that ever happened and everything that ever will happen exists simultaneously. Imagine a reel of film lying on the floor. In the movie of your life, there is a frame where you are born, a frame where you are listening to this voice right now, and a frame where you take your final breath. When you hold the reel in your hands, all those frames exist at once. The end of the movie is not unwritten just because you haven't watched it yet. It is there, physically present on the celluloid, coexisting with the opening scene. This is the reality of the universe. The dinosaurs are not gone. They are simply at a different coordinate in space-time, just as New York City is at a different coordinate in space than London. If you are in London, you do not say that New York has ceased to exist simply because you cannot see it. You accept that it is there, bustling with life, waiting for you to travel to it. Physics asks us to apply this same logic to time. The year 3000 is not a potentiality. It is a place. It is a location in the four-dimensional landscape of the cosmos. It is built, it is populated, and it is real. The only reason you cannot see it is that you are trapped in a biological vessel that restricts your perception to a single, moving slice of the block. We must ask ourselves why this illusion of flow is so convincing if it is indeed false. Why do we feel like we are moving if the landscape is static? The answer lies in the limitations of our consciousness. We are evolved creatures designed to survive in a specific environment. For an organism to survive, it needs to process cause and effect. It needs to know that a tiger is approaching now and that it must run now to survive in the future. Our brains have evolved to restrict our awareness to the immediate moment because that is where the danger is. Nature has placed blinders on us, filtering out the vast, static reality of the four-dimensional block and presenting us with a simplified, linear narrative. We are like a person walking through a dark museum with a flashlight. The statues and paintings in the museum are stationary. They do not move. But as our beam of light sweeps across them, we see them appear and then disappear into the darkness. We perceive motion, but the motion is entirely in our own minds. The flow of time is the movement of our consciousness through a static universe, not the movement of the universe itself. This realization brings with it a terrifying clarity. If the future is already there, waiting in the dark like a statue in a museum, then the concept of becoming is meaningless. We tend to think of the future as something we build. We agonize over our choices, believing that we stand at a crossroads of infinite possibilities. We think that if we work hard, we can create a better tomorrow. We think that if we make a mistake, we ruin a potential destiny. But if the block universe is real, the road ahead is already paved. It extends in front of us into the darkness, twisting and turning in ways that are completely fixed. We are not the architects of the road. We are merely the travelers. The choices you will make tomorrow, the person you will fall in love with next year, the way your life will eventually end, these are not open questions to the universe. They are facts that are located at coordinates you have not yet reached. Consider the anxiety this produces. It suggests that the script of your life was written the moment the universe began. It implies that every struggle, every victory, and every surprise is just you turning the page of a book that has already been printed. When you feel the anxiety of the unknown, you are fearing a monster that has already been defeated or a tragedy that has already struck. The event is fixed. Only your discovery of it is pending. It strips away the agency we hold so dear. We want to be the authors of our own stories, but physics suggests we are merely the readers. We are experiencing the playback of a recording that spans from the Big Bang to the heat death of the universe. However, there is a strange beauty in this solidity. If the future is as real as the past, then the universe is a complete work of art. It is not a messy, unfinished sketch that is being frantically drawn in real time. It is a masterpiece that exists in its entirety, perfect and whole. The stubborn illusion that Einstein spoke of is the veil that prevents us from seeing this wholeness. It forces us to live in a state of perpetual anticipation, always looking forward, always worrying, always missing the grand design because we are too focused on the single step in front of our feet. When we strip away the biological hallucination of the flow, we are left with a universe that is vast, silent, and frozen. It is a universe where now is nothing more than a coordinate, no more special than then. It is a universe where you are, in a sense, immortal, embedded forever in the space-time block, an eternal worm of events stretching through the crystal of reality. Your birth is always happening. Your death is always happening. And this moment, right here, right now, as you listen to these words, is eternal. It will never fade away. It will never be lost. It is a permanent fixture in the architecture of existence. But our minds rebel against this. We scream that we are free, that we can change, that the future is ours to mold. We cling to the sensation of the river because the alternative, the block of ice, feels too cold, too rigid, too final. We want the flow to be real because the flow implies life, and the block implies a kind of stasis that resembles death. Yet, the equations of relativity do not care about our comfort. They point undeniably toward a reality where the future has already happened. As we proceed into the deeper mechanics of this theory, we must be willing to let go of our intuition. We must be willing to accept that our senses are lying to us. The sun looks like it revolves around the earth, but we know it does not. The ground feels stationary beneath our feet, but we know we are spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. And time feels like a river, but we are about to discover that it is an ocean vast, deep, and already filled to the brim. The journey we are embarking on tonight is not just about physics. It is about confronting the true nature of your own existence. You are not moving toward the future. The future is waiting for you to catch up. To dismantle the illusion of time, we must first destroy the concept of now. In our everyday lives, we operate under the assumption that there is a universal, cosmic clock ticking away in the background of the universe. We instinctively believe that a moment happening right here, in this room, is happening simultaneously with a moment on Mars, a moment in the Andromeda galaxy, and a moment at the very edge of the observable cosmos. We imagine the universe as a giant, three-dimensional stage, where events unfold in unison, slice by slice, frame by frame. We believe that now is a straight line that cuts across the entire fabric of existence, separating the past that is gone from the future that has not yet arrived. This shared moment is the bedrock of our sense of reality. It comforts us to think that we are all existing together on the same page of the story. But this comfort is based on a lie. In the early 20th century, physics revealed a truth that is as mathematically undeniable as it is philosophically disturbing. There is no such thing as a universal now. The death of simultaneity began with the realization that the speed of light is the absolute speed limit of the universe. For centuries, We assumed that time was the constant, the steady drumbeat to which the rest of the universe danced. But Albert Einstein flipped this logic on its head. He realized that it is not time that is constant, but the speed of light. No matter how fast you are moving or in what direction, light always travels at exactly the same speed. This seems like a harmless technicality, but it contains a seed of destruction for our intuitive world. If the speed of light is rigid and unyielding, then something else must be flexible to accommodate it. That something else is space and time itself. If two observers are moving at different speeds, they cannot agree on the distance between 2 points. And more importantly, they cannot agree on the time interval between two events. To visualize this, we must enter the realm of the thought experiment, the laboratory of the mind where Einstein made his greatest discoveries. Imagine a long train moving at a significant fraction of the speed of light across a stationary platform. You are standing on the platform, watching the train rush by. Suddenly, two lightning bolts strike the track, one at the very front of the train and one at the very rear. Because you are standing still on the platform, precisely halfway between the two strikes, the light from both flashes reaches your eyes at the exact same instant. You declare with absolute certainty that the two lightning strikes were simultaneous. They happened at the same time. This is your reality, and it is supported by your observation. But now, consider a passenger sitting in the exact middle of that moving train. They are moving towards the flash at the front and moving away from the flash at the rear. Because the speed of light is constant and finite, it takes time for the light to travel. The passenger is rushing to meet the light from the front strike, shortening the distance the light has to travel to reach their eyes. Conversely, they are running away from the rear strike, forcing that light to chase them. Consequently, the passenger sees the front flash happen first, followed a fraction of a second later by the rear flash. To the passenger on the train, the events were not simultaneous. They were sequential. One happened, then time passed, and then the other happened. Here is the crisis. Who is right? Our Newtonian intuition screams that the person on the platform is right, and the person on the train is merely suffering from a delay in perception. But relativity tells us that there is no privileged frame of reference. The train is just as valid a place to measure the universe as the platform. Therefore, the passenger is not wrong. Their measurement is perfectly accurate for their frame of reality. This leads to a shattering conclusion. The simultaneity of events depends entirely on your state of motion. Two events that are now for you are past and future for someone else. If we cannot agree on what happens at the same time, we cannot agree on what now is. The cosmic knife that we thought sliced the universe into a neat, present moment does not exist. Instead, every observer slices the universe at a different angle. This implies that time is not a sequence of events that vanish as they pass. It is a coordinate system. Think of a loaf of bread. You can slice the loaf straight down, creating vertical slices. This represents the now of a stationary observer. But if you tilt the knife, your slice cuts through the loaf at an angle. One end of your slice is in the past of the vertical slice, and the other end is in the future of the vertical slice. The loaf itself, the block of space-time, does not change. Only the angle of the slice changes. When you move through space, you are essentially tilting your knife. You are changing your definition of now. This means that what you consider to be the future events that haven't happened yet in your slice are already located in the slice of someone moving at a different speed. The implications of this are profound. If my now can include events that you consider to be in the future, then those events must already exist. You cannot have a slice of reality that contains nothing. If the passenger on the train sees the front lightning bolt before the rear one, while you see them at the same time, it means that at the moment the passenger experienced the first flash, the second flash was for them in the future. Yet for you, it was happening right then. The event was physically real, waiting in the block of space-time to be encountered. The future is not being created as we go. It is simply a region of the space-time block that our personal slice has not yet intersected. This destroys the idea of the ticker tape universe. We often imagine reality like a ticker tape parade or a receipt printing out of a machine. The past is the printed paper trailing behind us, fixed and unchangeable, while the future is the blank paper ahead, waiting for ink. In this view, only the printing head to the present moment is active. But the death of simultaneity turns the ticker tape into a landscape. The entire roll of paper is already printed from start to finish and unrolled on a table. We are merely crawling along the paper like ants, reading the text line by line. Just because the ant has not yet walked onto the word destiny does not mean the word is not written there. It simply means the ant is not yet at that coordinate. The relativity of simultaneity proves that different ants can be at different places on the paper at the same time, and what is ahead for one may be behind for another. The collapse of the universal now also fundamentally alienates us from the rest of the universe in a way that is deeply existential. It means that we are each trapped in our own private bubble of time. There is no such thing as a shared present. When you look at the face of a loved one, you are seeing them as they were a fraction of a nanosecond ago, because light takes time to travel from their face to your eyes. But even beyond that lag, if you were to stand up and walk away from them, your now would pivot slightly away from theirs. The difference is imperceptible at human speeds and distances, but it is real. We are never truly synchronized with anything or anyone. We are solitary trajectories through the space-time block, intersecting and interacting, but never fully sharing the exact same slice of reality. Furthermore, this concept removes the special status of the present moment. In a world where simultaneity is relative, the label now loses its objective meaning. It becomes as subjective as the word here. When you say, "I am here," you mean, "I am at this location in space." Someone else in another city says, "I am here," and they mean a completely different location. Both are correct. Here is simply where you happen to be standing. Relativity tells us that now is exactly the same. It is simply when you happen to be paying attention. It is a coordinate your consciousness is currently occupying. Just as all the places in space, Paris, Tokyo, the moon exist simultaneously, even though you are not in them. All the moments in time, yesterday, today, tomorrow exist simultaneously, even though you are not experiencing them. The year 1920 is just a place you are not currently visiting. The year 2050 is a place you have not yet reached, but they are there. They are real. This understanding forces us to abandon the notion of time as a container that fills up and empties. Time is not a flowing substance. It is a structural dimension. The death of simultaneity is the birth of the block universe. It is the proof that the universe is a four-dimensional solid where all events are crystallized in a permanent relationship to one another. The breakdown of a shared now is the crack in the illusion that lets us see the truth. That reality is not a fleeting sequence of disappearances, but a vast, frozen ocean of existence. When we accept that there is no universal clock ticking away the seconds of the cosmos, we must also accept that our intuitive fear of the future is misplaced. We fear the future because we think it is undecided, a chaotic void that we must navigate with luck and skill. But if the future is simply another section of the landscape, then the anxiety of what will happen is akin to the anxiety of a traveler wondering if the mountain in the distance will still be there when they arrive. The mountain is there, the events are there. The separation between you and your future is not a matter of existence, it is merely a matter of distance. You are separated from your death not by chance, but by geometry. As we move forward in our exploration, remember this. The fact that you and a moving observer cannot agree on when an event happens is not a failure of measurement. It is a revelation of structure. It is the universe telling you that when is a relative concept, but is absolute. The event is, it exists in the block. The timing of it is just a matter of perspective. And if the timing is flexible, but the existence is fixed, then the future is as solid as the past. The death of simultaneity is the first nail in the coffin of free will, and the first step toward understanding that we are living in a reality that has already happened. The destruction of the universal now leads us inevitably to a new architectural understanding of the cosmos. If time is not a flowing river, and if simultaneity is merely a matter of perspective, then we must ask, what is the structure that holds all these disparate perspectives together? The answer lies in the unification of the three dimensions of space, with the single dimension of time into a four-dimensional manifold known as the block universe. This is not a theory of how things move, it is a map of where things are. To understand the block universe is to step out of your human experience and view reality from the perspective of eternity. It is to see the history of the cosmos not as a sequence of fleeting moments, but as a solid, static object, a monolith of existence that hangs suspended in the void, complete and unchanging. When we say space-time, we are often guilty of thinking of it as space plus time, a three-dimensional stage where a clock ticks in the corner. But Einstein taught us that this is incorrect. Space and time are fused together. To visualize this, we must perform a difficult mental exercise. We must imagine stepping outside the universe itself to look at it as a whole. Since our brains are not equipped to visualize four dimensions, let us simplify. Imagine the universe is a giant, rectangular loaf of bread. The width and height of the loaf represent the dimensions of space: left, right, up, down. The length of the loaf represents time. One end of the crust is the Big Bang, the other end is the heat death of the universe. In this model, the block universe, the entire loaf exists at once. The beginning is not gone, and the end is not waiting to be baked. The whole structure is sitting there on the table. Every single event that has ever happened or will ever happen is a crumb inside this loaf. The formation of the Earth, the extinction of the dinosaurs, the building of the pyramids, your first breath, your last breath, and the eventual cooling of the sun, these are not fleeting events. They are fixed points located at specific coordinates within the block. Just as the raisins in a loaf of bread do not move around, the events in space-time do not move. They are frozen in place. The extinction of the dinosaurs is located at one coordinate. Your birth is located at another. The distance between them is measured in time. But that distance is as physical and real as the distance between New York and Tokyo. This perspective radically alters our understanding of what it means to exist. We tend to think of ourselves as 3D objects moving through time. We imagine that we are here now and then there later, and that the version of us from 10 years ago has vanished. But in the block universe, you are not a point, you are a line. You are a four-dimensional object that stretches through the block like a long, winding worm. One tip of the worm is located at the moment of your birth, and the other tip is located at the moment of your death. Every moment of your life is a cross-section of this worm. The infant version of you, the teenager, the adult, and the elder are all equally real, existing simultaneously at different points along the length of your world line. When you think you are moving through time, what is actually happening is that your consciousness is illuminating consecutive cross-sections of this worm. It is like an MRI scan. When a doctor scans a patient, they see the body in slices, first the head, then the neck, then the chest. The patient is a whole, solid object, but the scanner reveals them one slice at a time. Our consciousness is the scanner. It moves along the world line, creating the illusion of growth and change. But the worm itself, the totality of your life, does not change. It is already laid out in the block, frozen in the amber of space-time. Your life is not a process of becoming. It is a static, geometric shape embedded in the universe. The implications of this for the cosmos are staggering. It means that the universe does not happen. The universe simply is. The Big Bang is not an explosion that occurred in the past. It is the jagged edge of the block at the beginning of time. The death of the sun is not a tragedy waiting in the future. It is a dark, cold region further down the block. From the God's eye view, the view from outside the block, there is no difference between the past and the future. They are simply different neighborhoods in the same city. You would not say that the north side of a city is past and the south side is future. You would simply say they are different places. In the block universe, 100 million years ago and 100 million years from now are just different places. This solidifies the terrifying concept we touched upon earlier, the reality of the future. If the loaf of bread exists in its entirety, then the slice labeled year 3000 is just as real as the slice labeled year 2024. It is physically there. It contains matter, energy, stars, and perhaps living beings. Those beings are going about their lives, having thoughts and feelings, just as vividly as you are right now. They do not feel like they are in the future. To them, their moment is now, and you are the ancient history trapped in the deep past. The block universe tells us that no moment is privileged. Every slice of the loaf feels like the present to the people inside it, but objectively, none of them are. They are all just coordinates. This model explains why physics equations are almost always time-symmetric. In the laws of mechanics, electromagnetism, and relativity, there is no distinction between forward and backward in time. You can run the equations in reverse, and they work perfectly. This has always puzzled scientists because our experience is so directional. We break an egg, and it never unbreaks. We grow old, never young. But in the block universe, this directionality is arguably just a feature of how the structure is built, not how it flows. The arrow of time is like a gradient of color running through the block, fading from light to dark rather than a movement. The block itself is static. The egg on the floor and the whole egg in your hand are just two different states of matter located at different positions in the block, connected by a world line of falling. Visualizing the universe as a frozen block also challenges our emotional relationship with loss. We mourn the past because we think it is gone. We think of history as a smoky trail left behind by the engine of the present, dissipating into nothingness. But in the block universe, the past is immutable granite. The Roman Empire is still rising and falling at its specific location. The dinosaurs are still hunting in the jungles of the Cretaceous period. Your childhood home, with you playing in the yard, is still standing there in the space-time manifold. Nothing is ever deleted. The block preserves everything. We simply travel away from these coordinates, and our biology prevents us from turning around to see them again. We are like travelers on a train looking out the back window. The mountains we passed are disappearing into the distance, but they have not ceased to exist. They are still there, solid and unmoving, exactly where we left them. However, this preservation comes at a cost. The cost of the open future. If the future is already part of the block, then it is just as rigid as the past. We tend to think of the future as a cloud of mist, formless and shapeless, waiting for us to mold it. But you cannot mold a block of ice that is already frozen. The events of tomorrow are already casting their shadows in the geometry of space-time. The war that has not started, the cure that has not been found, the child that has not been born, they are already embedded in the matrix. We are merely sliding toward them on the rails of our world lines. We do not create the future, we encounter it. The block universe creates a picture of reality that is stark, beautiful, and hauntingly lonely. It suggests that the cosmos is a completed work. It is not a story being told. It is a book that has already been printed and bound. We are the characters on page 100, unaware of what is written on page 200, but the ink is already dry on both. The separation between the start and the finish is an illusion of the reader, not the book. To the author, or to the laws of physics, the beginning and the end exist in a single, simultaneous thought. This merging of space and time forces us to realize that where and when are the same question. If you want to meet Julius Caesar, you don't need a time machine that defies physics. You just need a spaceship that can travel along the time dimension to the coordinate Rome, 44 BC. The fact that we cannot move freely in the time dimension like we can in space is a limitation of our biology and entropy, not a limitation of the structure itself. The coordinate exists. The stage is set. The actors are there. The play is being performed eternally at that specific location in the block. As we visualize this giant, frozen structure, we must accept that we are small, trapped observers within it. We are embedded in the meat of the loaf, seeing only the atoms immediately surrounding us. We cannot see the crust at the beginning or the heel at the end. We cannot see the vast, sweeping patterns of history that form the shape of the block. We are myopic creatures, mistaking our narrow view for the totality of truth. We mistake our inability to see the future for the future's non-existence. But the physics of space-time is the map that allows us to see beyond our blindness. It shows us that the universe is far grander and more permanent than our fleeting senses would have us believe. Ultimately, the block universe is the physical manifestation of destiny. It transforms the universe from a chaotic game of chance into a crystal of absolute order. Every photon, every planet, and every thought is a facet of this crystal, locked in place by the laws of relativity. We are not drifting on a river. We are fossilized in the geometry of eternity. The future is not a destination we are traveling to. It is a place we are already a part of, connected by the unbreakable threads of space-time. The silence of the block universe is the silence of a reality that is complete, a reality where everything that can happen has, in a sense, already happened. We are just the last ones to find out. To understand the true, terrifying rigidity of the block universe, we must leave the confines of our solar system and cast our minds across the vast, silent gulf of intergalactic space. We must travel to our nearest galactic neighbor, the Andromeda galaxy, located approximately 2.5 million light-years away. It is here, in the darkness between the stars, that we encounter a thought experiment known as the Andromeda paradox. This is not a riddle designed to trick you. It is a logical derivation from the laws of special relativity, formulated by physicists Roger Penrose and others, to demonstrate that the future is not a realm of possibilities, but a realm of facts. The paradox shows us that a simple change in motion, as subtle as a person standing up and walking across a room, can rewrite the definition of now across the universe, turning your distant future into someone else's present reality. The setup is deceptively simple. Imagine two people. One is you, sitting here on Earth in the present day. The other is an alien observer, let's call him the Andromedan living on a planet in the Andromeda galaxy. Because the distance between you is so vast, the geometry of space-time becomes incredibly sensitive to angles. In our previous discussion about the death of simultaneity, we established that now is defined by a slice through the space-time block, and that the angle of this slice depends on your speed. When you and the Andromedan are both sitting still relative to one another, your slices of now are roughly parallel. You share a moment, you are sitting on your couch, and he is sitting on his tentacle chair, and you are both existing at the same time across the cosmic void. But now, the Andromedan decides to stand up and go for a walk. He begins to walk directly toward Earth. He is not moving at the speed of light. He is moving at a casual, leisurely pace, let's say a few miles per hour. In our intuitive understanding of the world, this motion should be irrelevant. How could a leisurely stroll in a galaxy 2 million light-years away affect you? But in the geometry of special relativity, this small motion tilts the Andromedan's slice of now. Because the distance to Earth is so immense, quintillions of kilometers, this tiny tilt is amplified by a factor of millions. Think of it like a laser pointer. If you hold a laser pointer in your hand and tilt your wrist by a fraction of a millimeter, the dot on the wall a few feet away barely moves. But if you point that laser at the moon and tilt your wrist by the same fraction, the dot will race across the lunar surface by hundreds of miles. The Andromedan is the wrist, and Earth is the distant surface. By walking towards Earth, the Andromedan tilts his plane of simultaneity forward into the direction of his motion. Across the short distance of his room, the effect is negligible. But across the vast lever arm of 2.5 million light-years, that slice shears violently into Earth's future. Suddenly, the events that share the Andromedan's now are not the events of your present day. His now intersects with Earth at a point days, or perhaps weeks, in the future. If he were to move a little faster, say, driving a car towards Earth, his slice of now could easily intersect with Earth in the year 3000. This is the crux of the paradox. For the Andromedan driving his car, the Earth of the year 3000 is not a hypothetical scenario. It is not a prediction. It is the event that is happening simultaneously with his drive. In his slice of reality, the space fleet has already launched. The ruins of our cities are already overgrown, or the Great Peace Treaty has already been signed. Those events are structurally real to him. They are the present. Yet, to you, sitting on Earth, those events are the distant, unwritten future. You have not yet made the choices that will lead to them. You believe you still have free will. You believe the script is blank, but the geometry of the universe disagrees. If the year 3000 is now for the Andromedan, then the year 3000 must already exist. It must be sitting there in the block, waiting to be intersected. But the paradox gets even stranger. Suppose the Andromedan realizes he forgot his keys and turns around. He starts walking away from Earth. This simple change in direction tilts his plane of simultaneity in the opposite direction. The long lever of the cosmos swings back. Now, his now does not intersect with your future. It intersects with your past. As he walks away, the events on Earth that are simultaneous with his footsteps might be the signing of the Declaration of Independence, or the construction of the Great Pyramid, or a dinosaur hunting in a prehistoric swamp. In one moment, he was simultaneous with your descendants. In the next, he is simultaneous with your ancestors. This swinging of the cosmic now proves that the distinction between past, present, and future is entirely dependent on the observer's state of motion. But here is the logical trap that seals the fate of the block universe. If the Andromedan can swing his now back and forth across Earth's history just by changing his walking direction, then all those events, the pyramids, the present day, and the year 3000 must be equally real. You cannot have a now that lands on nothing. When the Andromedan slice intersects the year 3000, it must hit something solid. It cannot intersect a void. And when it intersects the year 2024, it hits you. And when it intersects ancient Egypt, it hits the pharaohs. For the paradox to work, the entire timeline of Earth must be laid out like a finished tapestry, available to be sampled at any point depending on the angle of the cut. It is crucial to clarify a common misunderstanding here. We are not talking about what the Andromedan sees. If he looked through a telescope, he would only see the light that left Earth 2.5 million years ago. He would see our prehistoric ancestors. That is simply the delay of light travel. The Andromeda paradox is not about vision. It is about existence. It is about what is happening at this very moment in his frame of reference. It is a question of coordinate systems, not optics. Physics tells us that his frame of reference is just as valid as ours. If his physics says that the Earth of the year 3000 is happening now, we cannot dismiss it as an illusion. We must accept that the year 3000 is a physical place that exists, even if we haven't reached it yet. This leads to a chilling realization about the solidity of our choices. Imagine you are agonizing over a difficult decision whether to take a new job, whether to propose marriage, or whether to turn left or right. You feel the weight of responsibility because you believe the outcome depends on you. You believe you are creating the future, but at that exact moment, an alien in Andromeda might be driving a spacecraft towards Earth at a significant fraction of the speed of light. For that alien, your decision has already been made. The consequences of your choice have already played out. The you in his now has already taken the job, or walked down the aisle, or turned left. The outcome is fixed in the space-time block before you even feel like you've made up your mind. Your sense of agency is a biological trick, a feeling that arises because you are crawling through the block frame by frame, unaware that the whole reel is already printed. The Andromeda paradox acts as a mathematical proof of fatalism. It shows that indeterminacy, the idea that the future is open and unsettled, is incompatible with special relativity. If you want to believe in an open future, you have to throw away Einstein's equations. You have to believe that there is a special, universal now that everyone agrees on, which we know is false. The only way to keep relativity is to accept that the future is real. The universe is not improvising. It is executing a code that was compiled at the beginning of time. This thought experiment also highlights the arbitrariness of the present. We treat the present moment as the only thing that matters, the only vivid reality. But the Andromeda paradox shows that the present is just a slice taken at a specific angle. It is a cross-section of a much larger, four-dimensional object. If you change the angle, you get a different cross-section. The alien slice is different from yours, but both are cuts through the same loaf of bread. The loaf doesn't change just because you slice it diagonally. The history of the universe doesn't change just because you are moving at a different speed. The events are the events. They are frozen, static, and eternal. There is a haunting beauty in this vast interconnectedness. It means that we are linked to the furthest reaches of the cosmos by the simple geometry of motion. A step taken on a distant world resonates with the timeline of Earth. We are not isolated in our own bubble of time. We are part of a rigid, interlocking structure that spans billions of light years. The paradox forces us to confront the fact that our local experience of time is incredibly parochial. We think the year 3000 is not real yet, simply because we are here, stuck in the 21st century. But that is like a person in New York saying that Tokyo is not real yet because they haven't flown there. The Andromedan is the traveler who reminds us that Tokyo exists, even if we can't see it. As we grapple with the implications of this paradox, we begin to feel the walls of the block universe closing in. The freedom to change our destiny evaporates, replaced by the certainty of a script that is already written. The alien in Andromeda is not controlling our future, but his existence proves that our future is already there to be controlled. He serves as a witness to the completion of our history. Whether he walks towards us or away from us, he is scanning a timeline that is fixed, immutable, and silent. He is looking at the statue of human history and seeing the head, the torso, and the feet all at once, while we are merely ants crawling up the leg, wondering what the face looks like. The Andromeda paradox is the final nail in the coffin of the flowing universe. It strips away the comfort of the unknown and replaces it with the cold, hard logic of geometry. It tells us that uncertainty is just ignorance. We don't know the future, not because it doesn't exist, but because we are looking at the universe through a keyhole. But the door is wide open for the universe itself. In the next part of our journey, we will explore why, if the block is truly frozen and static, we feel so convincingly that we are moving. We will turn the spotlight inward to the mechanism of consciousness to understand how the brain creates the illusion of the flow in a world that is standing still. The paradox shows us the stage. Now we must examine the actor. We have arrived at the most stubborn paradox of the block universe. We have established, through the geometry of relativity and the logic of the Andromeda paradox, that the universe is a static, frozen structure. We have seen that the past is not dead and the future is not unwritten. They are simply different locations in a four-dimensional manifold. But if this is true, if the universe is a block of ice rather than a flowing river, then why does it feel so undeniably like we are moving? Why do we experience the sensation of passage? Why does the moment you are in right now feel vivid and real, while the moment you were in 10 minutes ago feels like a fading memory? If the dinosaur and the astronaut exist simultaneously in the block, why don't they feel simultaneous to us? The answer lies not in the physics of the stars, but in the neurology of the observer. We must introduce the spotlight theory of consciousness to explain how a static universe can produce a dynamic experience. Imagine a vast, pitch-black theater. The stage is enormous, stretching out for miles in every direction. On this stage, the actors are not moving. They are frozen like mannequins, posed in the middle of their actions. In one corner of the stage, there is a scene of a child being born. In another, a couple is arguing in a kitchen. In another, an old man is taking his last breath. Every scene from the history of the universe is set up on this stage simultaneously. The props are glued down, the actors are rigid, nothing changes. This is the block universe. It is a museum of moments, fixed and eternal. Now, imagine that suspended above this dark stage, there is a single, focused spotlight. This beam of light shines down and illuminates one specific group of mannequins. Suddenly, that scene bursts into color and relevance. The actors appear to be real because they are visible. Then, the spotlight moves. It shifts a few inches to the left, illuminating the next pose in the sequence. Then it shifts again. To an observer watching only the illuminated circle, it looks like the actors are moving. It looks like the child is growing up, the argument is escalating, the old man is dying, but in reality, nothing on the stage has moved a millimeter. The only thing moving is the light. This is the spotlight theory of consciousness. The universe itself does not flow, time does not pass. The year 2024 does not become the year 2025. The events of 2024 and 2025 are sitting side by side in the dark. What moves is your awareness. Your consciousness is the spotlight that crawls along your world line, illuminating one cross-section of the block at a time. The sensation of flow is an illusion created by the continuous movement of this focal point. We are like readers proceeding through a book. The words on page 100 do not vanish when we turn to page 101. They simply leave our field of vision. The story feels like it is unfolding, but the book itself is a stationary object held in your hands. To understand this more deeply, we must return to the image of the human being as a four-dimensional worm. You are not a single 3D object that changes over time. You are a long, segmented creature stretching from birth to death. Each segment of the worm corresponds to a moment in your life. The spotlight theory suggests that your mind, the you that is experiencing this sentence, is a phenomenon that travels along this worm. When the spotlight is on the childhood segment of your worm, you experience being a child. You do not know the future, you only know the past segments that the light has already crossed. When the spotlight moves to the adult segment, the childhood segment goes dark. It is still there, solid and real, but it is no longer illuminated by the immediate spark of sensory experience. This explains why the now feels so special. It is the only part of the worm that is currently lit. We mistake this illumination for existence. We think that, Because we can only see the present is the only thing that exists. But this is a logical error. It is like driving a car down a dark highway at night. Your headlights illuminate only 100 yards of road. You do not assume that the road behind you has disintegrated, or that the road ahead does not exist until your light hits it. You understand that your view is limited by the reach of your beams. Consciousness is the headlights of the soul, driving down the highway of the world line. The road is fixed, only the drive is dynamic. But why does the spotlight move, and why does it move in only one direction? This brings us to the intersection of physics and biology. The illusion of flow is likely a survival mechanism hardwired into our brains. If we perceive the block universe as it truly is, if the spotlight were a floodlight that illuminated our entire life at once, we would be paralyzed. We would see our birth and our death simultaneously. We would see every mistake we are ever going to make and every pain we are ever going to feel, all in a single instant of total awareness. Such a consciousness would be useless for survival. To navigate a dangerous world, an organism needs to focus on the immediate cause and effect. It needs to know that the predator is jumping now. It needs to process information sequentially. Therefore, our brains have evolved to act as blinders. They filter out 99.9% of the reality of the block and feed us a trickle of information, frame by frame. We are like cinema projectors. A movie film is a static strip of plastic with thousands of still images printed on it. The film does not move in the sense that the pictures change. The pictures are permanent. But the projector pulls the film past the lens at 24 frames per second. The mechanical action of the projector creates the illusion of motion from static data. Your brain is the projector. It takes the static data of the block universe, the frozen states of your neurons at each coordinate, and stitches them together into a coherent narrative. The flow of time is a cognitive construction, a user interface designed by evolution to help us interact with a four-dimensional world that is too complex for us to perceive in its entirety. This implies that becoming is a mental state, not a physical one. We often speak of things happening. We say, the rain is falling. But in the block, the rain is a jagged streak of water stretching from the cloud to the ground. It is a static shape. The sensation of falling comes from our consciousness scanning down that shape. We are encountering the rain, slice by slice. We are not creating the moment, we are arriving at it. This shift in perspective is subtle but revolutionary. It means that we are not the authors of the story, nor are we the characters being written. We are the readers. The text is already there. We are simply moving our eyes across the page. The spotlight theory also offers a profound explanation for the nature of memory. In this model, memory is not a recording of a gone past. It is the connection between the segment of the worm currently in the spotlight and the segments that were previously lit. The structure of your brain at the now coordinate contains physical traces, synaptic patterns that were formed by the geometry of the past coordinates. We feel like the past is behind us because the entropy of our brain increases along the world line. We have access to the lower entropy states, memories, but not the higher entropy states, the future. The spotlight moves in the direction of increasing disorder, giving us the sensation of an arrow of time. But the arrow is internal. The universe outside doesn't care which way the light moves. There is a haunting quality to this theory. It suggests that the you of 10 years ago is not a memory, but a living, breathing entity that is simply sitting in the dark. That version of you is eternally stuck in that moment, laughing at a joke or crying over a heartbreak, forever fixed in the amber of space-time. The spotlight has moved on, leaving them in the shadows of the block. But are they conscious? Does the spotlight only illuminate one slice at a time, meaning only one you is awake? Or is the spotlight merely a metaphor for our attention, and in reality, every slice of the worm is eternally conscious, trapped in a forever loop of its own specific moment? Some philosophers argue that if the block is real, then now is just an indexical term, like here. If you are in New York, you say, I am here. If you are in London, you say, I am here. Both are true. Similarly, the you in 2010 feels now is 2010. The you in 2030 feels now is 2030. It is possible that the spotlight doesn't move at all. It is possible that the spotlight is everywhere at once, but because each slice is isolated, it only feels like a fleeting moment to the observer inside it. In this view, the flow isn't just an illusion, it is a fragmentation. You are a scattered collection of moments, each believing it is the only one that exists. However, if we stick to the moving spotlight model, we find a strange comfort in the idea of the dark stage. It means that the universe is far richer than what we perceive. We are walking through a palace in the dark with a tiny candle. We see only the patch of floor beneath our feet. We worry that the palace ends just beyond the flicker of the flame. We worry that the rooms we have left have crumbled into dust. But the physics of the block universe assures us that the palace is whole. The rooms behind us are still furnished. The rooms ahead are waiting, fully decorated, filled with the joys and sorrows that we are destined to meet. This separation of ontological time, the reality of existence, from epistemic time, the reality of our experience, solves the conflict between Einstein and our intuition. Einstein is right about the map. Our intuition is right about the journey. The map is static. The journey is dynamic. We are travelers moving through a landscape that does not change. The mountain does not rise up to meet you. You climb it step by step. The future does not rush towards you. You walk into it. The distinction is crucial because it relocates the phenomenon of time from the fabric of the cosmos to the architecture of the mind. As we consider the spotlight, we must ask, who is holding it? What is the force that propels our awareness forward? Physics has no answer for this. The equations of relativity describe the block, but they do not describe the motion of the observer through it. This remains one of the greatest mysteries of science, the hard problem of consciousness, intersecting with the physics of time. We know the block is real, we know the flow is illusory, but the illusion is so consistent, so universal, and so relentless that it must be governed by a law we have not yet discovered. For now, we must accept that we are the projectors of our own reality. The film is in the can, sitting on the shelf of the universe. We are merely threading it through the lens of our eyes, frame by frame, creating the motion of life from the stillness of eternity. We are the machine that turns the frozen block into a living story. The events are fixed, but the experience of them is ours alone. We are not creating the future, but we are the only ones who can bring it out of the dark. If time is truly a dimension, a coordinate system no different from length, width, or height, then we are faced with a glaring contradiction that physics struggles to explain. In the spatial dimensions, we possess total freedom. You can walk north, and then you can turn around, and walk south. You can climb up a set of stairs, and you can climb back down. Space is isotropic. It does not care which direction you travel. But time is a tyrant. It permits movement in only one direction, forward. We are dragged relentlessly from the cradle to the grave, unable to pause, unable to reverse, and unable to return to the moments we have lost. We remember the past with vivid clarity, yet the future remains a blank void, utterly inaccessible to our memory. If the block universe is a static crystal, where the past and future exist simultaneously, why is our experience so aggressively asymmetrical? Why can we see the road behind us, but not the road ahead? The answer lies in a concept that is less about time and more about the statistical behavior of matter: entropy, the architect of the arrow of time. To understand this deception, we must first appreciate a strange fact about the fundamental laws of physics. Whether we are looking at Newton's laws of motion, Maxwell's equations of electromagnetism, or Schrödinger's equation of quantum mechanics, they are all time-symmetric. This means they work equally well in forward or reverse. If you were to film a planet orbiting a star and play the film backward, the physics would still make perfect sense. If you filmed two billiard balls colliding and played it in reverse, no law of physics would be violated. At the deepest level of reality, the universe does not distinguish between the past and the future. The atoms do not know which way time is supposed to flow, yet, in our macroscopic world, the world of coffee cups, burning stars, and human bodies, the difference is unmistakable. We never see a scrambled egg unscramble itself. We never see a cloud of smoke rush back into a chimney. We never see an old man grow young. This irreversibility is not due to the nature of time itself, but to the second law of thermodynamics. This law states that, in an isolated system, entropy, a measure of disorder or randomness, must always increase or stay the same. It never decreases. The universe is engaged in a slow, inexorable slide from order into chaos, from structure into dust. This gradient of disorder creates the illusion of a flowing timeline. We define the past as the direction of lower entropy, and the future as the direction of higher entropy. The reason we cannot go back to the past is not because the past is gone, but because the path back to order is statistically impossible to find. Consider the classic example of a coffee cup falling off a table and shattering on the floor. In the initial state, the cup is a highly ordered object. Its atoms are arranged in a precise crystalline structure that holds the liquid. When it falls and breaks, that energy is dispersed. The ceramic shards scatter across the floor, and the heat from the impact vibrates the air molecules in the room. This is a state of high entropy. There is only one way for the cup to be whole, but there are trillions upon trillions of ways for it to be broken. Now, imagine watching a video of this event in reverse. The shards leap from the floor, fusing perfectly together. The liquid gathers itself from the spill and rushes back into the cup. The cup flies up against gravity and lands gently on the table. You immediately know this is fake, but why? It is not because the laws of motion prohibit it. Theoretically, if you could precisely reverse the velocity of every single atom in the room, every molecule of air, every shard of ceramic, the physics would allow the cup to reassemble. The problem is not possibility, it is probability. There are simply too many moving parts. The odds of all those trillions of atoms coincidentally moving in the exact direction needed to reform the cup are so astronomically low that they are effectively zero. The arrow of time is essentially a statistical accident. We move toward the future because there are vastly more ways for the universe to be messy than for it to be tidy. This thermodynamic asymmetry is what traps us in a one-way experience. But it goes deeper than just breaking cups. It explains the very nature of memory and consciousness. We often ask, why do I remember the past but not the future? The answer is that your brain is an entropy machine. The act of thinking, of forming a memory, is a physical process. To encode a memory in your neurons, your brain must do work. It must rearrange chemicals and fire electrical signals. According to the laws of thermodynamics, doing this work generates heat. Heat is disordered energy. Therefore, the creation of order inside your brain, a structured memory, is always paid for by a greater increase in disorder outside your brain, heat released into your body and the environment. We are biologically coupled to the entropic gradient of the universe. We can only form records of events that have happened because the process of recording requires an increase in total entropy. We are surfing the wave of the universe's decay. We know the past because the past was a state of lower entropy that has left its mark on the present. We cannot know the future because the future is a state of higher entropy that has not yet left a trace. The future is like a fog of infinite chaotic possibilities, whereas the past is a crystallized structure of specific outcomes. This leads us to a profound realization about the cosmos. The only reason we perceive an arrow of time at all is that the universe started in a state of exceptionally low entropy. This is known as the past hypothesis. At the moment of the Big Bang, the universe was incredibly smooth, dense, and organized. Ever since that moment, the universe has been unwinding, like a clock spring releasing its tension. Everything that has ever happened, the formation of stars, the evolution of life, the rise of civilizations, and the thought you are having right now is a result of the universe trying to distribute its energy more evenly. We are the byproducts of the universe's attempt to reach equilibrium. If the universe had started in a state of maximum entropy, a warm, chaotic soup of equilibrium, there would be no stars, no planets, and no life. There would also be no time as we experience it. In a universe of maximum entropy, nothing changes. There is no gradient to slide down. There is no distinction between past and future because every moment looks exactly like the chaotic moment before it. Time, in the sense of a sequence of distinguishable events, requires an imbalance. It requires a battery that is fully charged and ready to drain. The Big Bang was that battery, and we are living in the discharge. This perspective radically changes how we view the flow of time. It suggests that the flow is not a fundamental property of the dimension itself, but a property of our location on the entropy curve. We are walking downhill. We feel the pull of gravity dragging us forward, but the hill itself is static. If you were standing on a flat plane, maximum entropy, you would not feel that pull. The past is simply the direction uphill toward the Big Bang, and the future is the direction downhill toward the heat death. We are not moving through time. We are moving through states of disorder. This also explains why we feel that the future is open and the past is closed. The past is low entropy. It represents a specific, highly ordered configuration that we can analyze. The future is high entropy. It represents a vast number of possible disordered states. When a drop of ink falls into a glass of water, the initial state, the drop, is clear and defined. The final state, the colored water, is murky. We are moving from the clear drop into the murky water. We call this murkiness uncertainty, and we mistake it for freedom. We think the future is undecided because we cannot see the details through the fog of disorder. But in the block universe view, the ink has already spread. The messy state exists just as surely as the clean state. Our inability to predict the exact position of every ink molecule does not mean they don't have positions. It just means our brains are too simple to calculate them. The arrow of time, therefore, is an arrow of deception. It blinds us to the static nature of the block. It forces us to look in only one direction towards decay. It creates the sensation of loss. When we lose a loved one, we feel they have been taken from us by the passage of time. But physics tells us that they are simply in the lower entropy section of the block, while we have moved to a higher entropy section. The structure of their life is intact, preserved in the order of the past. We simply cannot return to them because we cannot reverse the shattering of the cup. We cannot unburn the candle. To go back would require undoing the disorder of the entire universe, which is statistically impossible. Moreover, this thermodynamic view suggests that our very consciousness relies on this one-way street. If there were no entropy gradient, our brains could not process information. We would not be able to think A causes B. Causality itself is linked to this flow. We see the cup fall before it breaks because the broken state is the higher entropy state. In a time-reversed world, we would see broken shards spontaneously jump together, but in that world, our brains would also be running in reverse. We would remember the future and predict the past. The arrow is subjective to the observer's biological needs. As we stare into the void of the future, we are actually staring into the face of complexity. The future is hidden from us, not because it hasn't happened, but because it is too complex to be compressed into a memory. The past is simple enough to be recorded. The future is too chaotic to be contained. We are walking backward into the dark, holding a lantern that only illuminates the orderly path we have already trodden. We call the darkness tomorrow, but it is just the scattered debris of the universe waiting to be encountered. Ultimately, entropy teaches us that time is a measure of change, and change is a measure of destruction. Every moment we live is purchased with a small amount of universal death. Every memory we cherish is a receipt for energy spent and order lost. The deception is thinking that the river carries us. In truth, we are simply sliding down a pile of sand, grain by grain, mistaking the landslide for a journey. The pile is there, from the peak to the base. We are just the sliding stones, aware only of the friction of the moment, calling it life. We have now arrived at the most unsettling destination of our journey. We have traversed the frozen landscape of the block universe, accepted the death of the now, and witnessed the illusion of the flowing river. But so far, these concepts have felt like cosmic abstractions, distant theories about stars and light years. Now, we must bring the block universe down from the sky and into your living room. We must apply the logic of space-time to the most intimate aspect of your existence, your mind. If the past, present, and future are all equally real and eternally fixed, then we are forced to confront a terrifying question. Do we actually have any control over our lives? If the movie is already printed on the reel, can the actor change the lines? The physics of the block universe points to a conclusion that strikes at the very heart of human identity. The script is written, and free will may be the ultimate illusion. To understand this, we must return to the concept of being versus becoming. In our intuitive view of the world, we believe we are in a constant state of becoming. We feel that we are standing at the helm of a ship, navigating through a sea of infinite possibilities. Every morning, you wake up and feel that the day is a blank page waiting to be filled. You believe that you could choose to have coffee or tea, that you could choose to walk to work or take the bus, that you could choose to fall in love or stay alone. We define our humanity by this capacity for choice. We believe that the future is an open void that we shape with our decisions. But in the block universe, there is no becoming. There is only being. The four-dimensional worm that represents your life is already complete. It does not grow. It simply exists. If your life is a static object in space-time, then every choice you have ever made or will ever make is just a geometric feature of that object. Think of a fork in the road. In the physical world, when a road splits, the pavement is laid down in a specific shape. The road does not choose to go left or right. It simply goes left or right based on how the engineers built it. In the block universe, your life path is the road. When you come to a difficult decision, say, accepting a job offer in a new city, you agonize over it. You weigh the pros and cons. You feel the anxiety of the what if. But in the four-dimensional reality, there is no what if. There is only what is. Looking down from the God's eye view, we can see the road of your life leading up to that decision, and we can see exactly which path it takes afterward. The struggle you feel in your mind is not the process of creating the future. It is simply the experience of the road curving. This leads us to the philosophy of hard determinism. This is the idea that every event in the universe, including every human thought and action, is the inevitable result of preceding causes. If we accept that we live in a universe governed by laws of physics, cause and effect, then we must accept that we are part of that chain. Your brain is made of atoms. Those atoms obey the same laws as the planets and the stars. They do not have freedom. They have trajectories. The electrical signals firing in your neurons right now, causing you to understand these words, are the direct result of the signals that fired a millisecond ago, which were caused by the signals before them in an unbroken chain stretching back to your birth, and before that, to the formation of the Earth, and ultimately to the Big Bang. In a block universe, this chain is welded together into a solid structure. Imagine you are watching a movie that you have seen 1,000 times. In the climax of the film, the hero has to choose whether to cut the red wire or the blue wire to defuse the bomb. On the screen, the hero is sweating. He is shaking. He is terrified. To him, the choice is real. The tension is unbearable. But you, sitting in the audience, know exactly what he is going to do. You know he cuts the red wire. He has to cut the red wire. It is in the script. It is on the film. There is no version of reality where he cuts the blue wire. His freedom to choose is an illusion created by his ignorance of the script. We are all that hero. We are living inside the movie. We feel the sweat and the shaking. We feel the weight of the decision, but that feeling is not evidence of freedom. It is simply the sensation of the script playing out. You feel like you could stop watching this video right now. You feel like that is a choice available to you. But if you do stop, it was determined billions of years ago that you would stop. If you keep watching, that too was written in the geometry of the Big Bang. You are doing exactly what you were always going to do. You are performing the role that the universe assigned to you at the moment of its creation. This realization creates a profound sense of vertigo. It suggests that we are puppets who have been given the gift of consciousness, just enough to see the strings but not enough to cut them. It implies that you are not the author of your life, but merely the observer of it. The thoughts that arise in your head, where do they come from? You do not choose your next thought before you think it. It simply appears, bubbling up from the dark chemistry of your subconscious. You did not choose your genes. You did not choose your parents. You did not choose the environment that shaped your personality. If you did not choose the raw materials of your mind, how can you claim to choose the output? Determinism in the block universe suggests that if we had a computer powerful enough, a hypothetical intellect known as Laplace's demon, that could know the position and velocity of every single particle in the universe at a single moment, it could calculate the entire future with 100% accuracy. It could look at the state of the universe 1 second after the Big Bang and predict that you would be sitting here right now, feeling exactly what you are feeling. It could predict every war, every kiss, every symphony, and every mistake. In such a universe, chance is just a word we use to describe our own ignorance. We flip a coin and call it random because we cannot calculate the air resistance and the force of the thumb. But to the universe, the result of the coin flip is fixed before the coin even leaves the hand. This effectively turns the concept of moral responsibility on its head. If a criminal commits a crime, we judge them because we believe they could have done otherwise, but in the block universe, they could not have done otherwise. Their crime is a dark knot in the space-time block, a fixed feature of reality, just like a storm or an earthquake. They are a character written to be a villain. This does not mean we should not have prisons or justice systems. Those too are part of the script, mechanisms the universe uses to regulate itself. But it does strip away the metaphysical guilt. We are all playing our parts in a tragedy that no one wrote, moving through motions that were decided before we were born. So why is the illusion of free will so strong? Why does it feel so undeniably like we are in control? The answer lies in the complexity of the system. Our brains are the most complex structures in the known universe. The causal chains that lead to a single decision are so vast, so intricate, and so buried in the microscopic firing of billions of synapses that we cannot track them. Because we cannot see the causes of our actions, we assume there are no causes. We mistake the invisibility of the strings for the absence of strings. We call this gap volition. We feel a desire, and then we act, and we assume the desire was the first cause. But the desire itself was an effect. You do not choose to be hungry. You do not choose to be tired. You do not choose to be in love. These things happen to you, and your will is just the story you tell yourself to explain the action that follows. This is the terrifying beauty of the block universe. It forces us to reconsider the nature of the self. If you are not the agent of change, if you are not the driver of the car, then who are you? You are the experience. You are the point of awareness where the universe feels itself happening. You are not the writer of the book. You are the reading of the book. The text is fixed, but the reading is vivid, emotional, and real. The joy you feel is determined, but it is still joy. The pain is inevitable, but it is still pain. The script is written, but it must still be performed. There is a strange kind of liberation in this hard determinism. If the future is already written, then the burden of making the right choice is lifted. The anxiety of the what if evaporates. You cannot make a mistake. You can only do what you do. The path you take is the only path you could have taken. Regret becomes a logical fallacy. To regret a past action is to wish that a piece of the space-time block was shaped differently. It is like wishing that a triangle had 4 sides. It is a rebellion against geometry. The bad choices you made, the failures you endured, they are structural components of the person you are today. They are load-bearing walls in the architecture of your world line. Without them, the structure collapses. However, this view is undeniably bleak for those who cherish the human spirit's capacity for defiance. We want to believe that we can rage against the dying of the light. We want to believe that we can change the world. And in a practical sense, we can. We build cities, cure diseases, and create art. But the determinist argues that our raging and our building are just part of the program. The revolutionary who overthrows a tyrant was destined to do so. The scientist who discovers a cure was destined to find it. We are not changing the future, we are fulfilling it. We are the tools the universe uses to sculpt itself. As we stare into the frozen crystal of the block universe, we see a reality that is totally complete and utterly indifferent to our desires. It is a universe where possibility is a lie. There is only necessity. Everything that happens, happens because it must. The future is not a haze of probability. It is a landscape of certainty waiting in the dark. You are moving toward a specific destiny, a specific death, and a specific legacy. You cannot see it, but it is there. Does this make you a prisoner? Or does it make you a part of something eternal? If your choices are permanently embedded in space-time, then your life is not a fleeting whisper. It is a permanent inscription. You are carving your shape into the bedrock of the universe. You may not have chosen the shape of the carving, but you are the chisel and the stone. You are the inevitable manifestation of the laws of physics expressing themselves as a human being. In the end, the question, "Do I have free will?" may be the wrong question. The right question is, does it matter? We are trapped in the illusion of the flow, trapped in the feeling of choice. Even if we know the script is written, we have no choice but to act as if it isn't. We must play our roles. We must hesitate at the crossroads. We must cut the red wire. We must live. Because in the block universe, the show doesn't just go on. The show is always on, and you are always on stage, performing the scene that defines you forever. For the past 7 parts of our journey, we have been constructing a prison. We have built the block universe out of the sturdy bricks of general relativity and the mortar of logic. We have argued that reality is a frozen, 4-dimensional crystal where the future is as solid as the past. We have looked into the eyes of Laplace's demon and accepted that our choices are merely the mechanics of a script written at the dawn of time. But just as the walls of this deterministic prison seem to be closing in, sealing us inside a reality of absolute fate, a crack appears in the foundation. It is a hairline fracture, invisible to the naked eye, found only in the deepest, smallest sub-basement of the cosmos. When we peer through this crack, we do not see the rigid geometry of the block. We see chaos. We see a swirling mist of possibilities where nothing is certain, and the future is not a destination, but a roll of the dice. This is the realm of quantum mechanics, and it is here that the block universe faces its greatest challenge. To find this crack, we must leave the world of the very large, the stars, galaxies, and light years that Einstein ruled and descend into the world of the very small, the subatomic realm of electrons, photons, and quarks. In the macroscopic world, objects have definite properties. A chair is in a specific place. A planet has a specific speed. But in the early 20th century, physicists discovered that the fundamental building blocks of reality do not behave like tiny chairs or tiny planets. They behave like ghosts. They defy the common sense that dictates the block universe. The man who drove the wedge into the block was Werner Heisenberg, and his weapon was the uncertainty principle. Heisenberg discovered a fundamental limit to what can be known about the universe. He showed that you cannot simultaneously know the precise position and the precise momentum of a particle. The more accurately you know where a particle is, the less you know about where it is going. This is not a failure of our measuring instruments. It is not because our microscopes are too crude. It is a fundamental property of nature itself. The universe, at its pixelated resolution, is fuzzy. It refuses to be pinned down. In the classical block universe, every particle has a definite world line, a sharp, clear thread weaving through space-time. But Heisenberg showed us that if you zoom in close enough, the thread unravels into a blur. You cannot draw a sharp line from the past to the future because the particle doesn't have a single, defined coordinate. This shatters the concept of the future as a fixed place. In the classical view, if you know the state of a particle now, you can predict exactly where it will be in 10 seconds. But in the quantum view, you can only predict the probability of where it will be. The future of an electron is not a single point. It is a wave of possibilities spreading out like ripples in a pond. It might be here, it might be there, or it might be a million miles away. Until the moment it interacts with something, until it is observed, it is essentially everywhere and nowhere at once. This probabilistic nature of reality is a direct assault on the block model. If the future consists of probabilities rather than certainties, then the future cannot be already written in the same way the past is. You cannot have a solid block of stone made out of maybes. A statue cannot be 50% marble and 50% vacuum until you look at it. The block universe requires the future to be definite. Quantum mechanics insists that the future is a cloud. If the subatomic particles that make up your brain and your world are fundamentally undecided until the moment of the present, then the future cannot physically exist yet. It is waiting to be collapsed into existence. This conflict gave rise to a new, hybrid theory of time known as the growing block universe. This model offers a compromise between the rigid determinism of Einstein and the chaotic freedom of quantum mechanics. Imagine the universe not as a finished loaf of bread, but as a crystal that is slowly growing in a tank of supercooled liquid. The solid part of the crystal represents the past. It is fixed, immutable, and structured. The atoms are locked in place. You cannot change the past. It is the block part of the theory. However, the future, the liquid surrounding the crystal, is formless. It is a void of pure potential, a realm of quantum probabilities that have not yet settled into a state of reality. The now, the present moment, is the glowing, active edge of the crystal. It is the boundary where the liquid turns into solid. It is the accretion disk of time. In the growing block model, the present is the most important place in the universe. It is the workshop of creation. It is the thin slice of reality where the indeterminate maybe transforms into the determinate is. In this view, we are not moving through a pre-existing landscape with a flashlight. We are the construction workers paving the road. As we move forward, the universe is knitting itself together moment by moment out of the quantum fog. The future is truly open because it literally does not exist yet. The year 3000 is not waiting for us. We have to build it, second by second, choice by choice, quantum collapse by quantum collapse. This restores the intuitive feeling of the flow of time. The flow is the actual process of the universe getting bigger, adding new layers of existence to the block of the past. This perspective creates a profound shift in how we view the script of our lives. In the rigid block universe, we were actors reciting lines. In the growing block, we are improvising. But this improvisation is chaotic. Einstein famously rejected this idea. He was deeply disturbed by the implications of quantum mechanics. He uttered the famous line, "God does not play dice with the universe." Einstein wanted a universe of perfect order, a universe where every effect had a clear cause, where the future was a logical necessity of the past. He could not accept a reality built on gambling. To him, the idea that the fundamental fabric of reality was random was an admission of defeat. He believed the block was solid and that quantum mechanics was just an incomplete theory, missing some hidden variables that would eventually restore order. But history has not been kind to Einstein's skepticism. Experiment after experiment has confirmed the quantum nature of reality. We have proven that the universe does play dice. We have proven that, at the foundational level, reality is not deterministic. It is stochastic. The specific time a radioactive atom decays is not determined by its history. It is truly, genuinely random. If the universe's bedrock is random, then the rigid structure of the macro world rests on shifting sands. The crack in the block is real. However, we must be careful not to mistake randomness for freedom. This is the trap of the quantum argument. We often look to quantum uncertainty as the savior of free will. We think, if the atoms in my brain are not determined, then I am free to choose. But does the roll of a die grant you agency? If your decisions are the result of a quantum fluctuation, a random electron jumping from one synapse to another, that is not you making a choice. That is just a random event happening to you. Being a slave to chaos is no better than being a slave to destiny. If your arm twitches because of a random neural firing, you didn't will it. It just happened. So, while quantum mechanics destroys the hard determinism of the script, it does not necessarily hand the pen back to us. It replaces the prison of fate with the asylum of chance. We are left oscillating between two terrifying options. Either we are clockwork automatons winding down a preset path, or we are driftwoods tossing in a turbulent ocean of probability. The growing block suggests that the truth is a complex interplay of both. The past exerts a massive pressure on the present, the momentum of history, the laws of physics, the structure of our biology, pushing us in a specific direction. But at the cutting edge of the now, there is a shimmer of uncertainty, a tiny degree of wiggle room where the universe decides which path to take. This shimmer implies that the universe is not a finished work of art, but a work in progress. It gives a physical significance to the passage of time. It validates our feeling that the past is heavy and the future is light. The past is heavy because it is filled with matter and facts. The future is light because it is empty. This model saves us from the claustrophobia of the eternal block. It tells us that nothing is truly lost as the past persists, but also that nothing is truly guaranteed as the future is unformed. Consider the many worlds interpretation, which is another way quantum mechanics tries to deal with this problem. Some physicists argue that the block doesn't just grow, it branches. Every time a quantum event has multiple possible outcomes, the universe splits. In one branch, the cat is alive. In the other, it is dead. In one branch, you turned left. In the other, you turned right. This creates a multiverse block, a terrifyingly complex fractal where everything that can happen does happen. If this is true, then the future is fixed, but it is not singular. You are destined to do everything. This is a determinism of a different kind, a determinism of totality. But if we stick to the simpler growing block, we find a sliver of hope for the concept of the unknown. It means that the alien in Andromeda, swinging his now towards Earth, does not intersect our future because there is nothing there to intersect. His slice of simultaneity would hit a void. He cannot see our year 3000 because we haven't made it yet. The paradox collapses because the geometry of the future is missing. This restores the special status of the present moment as the cosmic frontier. Ultimately, the argument between the block universe and quantum mechanics is the battle between geometry and algebra, between the smooth curve and the jagged step. General relativity depicts a universe of graceful, continuous arcs. Quantum mechanics depicts a universe of jumpy, discrete packets. We have not yet found the theory of everything that unites them. Until we do, we are left with a broken picture. We look at the stars and we see the block. We look at the atoms and we see the dice. This crack in the block is where the mystery of life resides. It is the gap where the rigid laws of physics loosen their grip just enough to allow for the emergence of something new. It suggests that while the broad strokes of history may be inevitable, driven by entropy and gravity, the fine details are left to the roll of the quantum dice. The universe knows it will end, but it doesn't know exactly how. It knows the glass will break, but it doesn't know the shape of the shards. As we stand on this precipice, looking out from the solid edge of the past into the misty void of the future, we realize that the illusion of time might be the universe's way of resolving this conflict. The flow of time is the sensation of the quantum wave function collapsing into reality. It is the feeling of the maybe becoming the yes or the no. The crack in the block is not a flaw. It is the window through which the new enters the world. The script might be outlined, but the dialogue is still being written, pixel by pixel, at the bleeding edge of the now. Throughout our exploration of the block universe, we have confronted ideas that are deeply unsettling. We have stripped away the comfort of the flowing river, exposed the illusion of the now, and dismantled the intuitive sense of free will. We have painted a picture of a universe that is rigid, frozen, and indifferent, a cosmic machine where the script is written and the actors are bound by the chains of causality. For many, this realization leads to a sense of existential dread. It feels like a prison. But if we look closer at the walls of this prison, we find that they are not just confining, they are also preserving. The same physics that denies us an open future also denies us a vanishing past. This leads us to a philosophical stance known as Eternalism, a perspective that offers a profound and scientifically grounded comfort in the face of our greatest fear, the fear of loss. To understand Eternalism is to fundamentally change your relationship with death and the passage of time. In our ordinary experience, we operate under a philosophy called presentism. We believe that only the present moment is real. We think the past has been destroyed, erased from existence like a message written in sand and washed away by the tide. We think the future is a void of nothingness. Consequently, when a moment passes, we mourn it as if it has died. When a loved one passes away, We believe they have ceased to exist in the universe. We feel the crushing weight of never again. But the physics of the block universe tells us that presentism is a lie. The past is not gone. It is simply a place we can no longer see. There is no greater testament to this worldview than the words of Albert Einstein himself. Einstein was not just a cold calculator of equations. He was a man who deeply felt the mysteries of the cosmos. In March of 1955, less than a month before his own death, Einstein received news that his lifelong friend, Mikhail Besso, had passed away. Besso was not just a friend. He was the sounding board for Einstein's early ideas on relativity. They had journeyed through the revolution of physics together. Upon hearing of his death, Einstein wrote a letter of condolence to Besso's family. In this letter, he did not offer the traditional comforts of religion or the promise of a heaven beyond the clouds. Instead, he offered the comfort of the block universe. He wrote, "Now he has departed from this strange world a little ahead of me. That means nothing. People like us, who believe in physics, know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." This is perhaps the most profound sentence ever written about the human experience of time. Einstein was telling the grieving family that Michel Besso was not gone. In the four-dimensional landscape of spacetime, Besso's life was still there. His birth, his laughter, his conversations with Einstein, and his final breath were all permanent, immutable features of the universe. The fact that the now spotlight had moved past the coordinates of Besso's life did not mean that Besso had been erased. It simply meant that he occupied a different section of the block. To Einstein, death was not an annihilation. It was merely a horizon, a limit of our sight, not a limit of reality. Eternalism asks us to apply the same logic to time that we apply to space. Imagine you are traveling on a train from Paris to Berlin. As you look out the window, you see the French countryside. Then, hours later, you see the German border. You do not assume that because you are now in Germany, Paris has ceased to exist. You do not mourn the Eiffel Tower as if it has vanished into a void. You know, with absolute certainty, that Paris is still there, bustling with life, existing simultaneously with your current location. You simply aren't there to see it. The distance between you and Paris is spatial, and your inability to see it is a matter of perspective. Physics tells us that the distance between you and your deceased loved ones is exactly the same. It is a temporal distance. The year 2010, when you were laughing with a friend who is now gone, is just like Paris. It is a coordinate. It is a real physical location in the space-time manifold. That moment is not a memory fading in your neurons. It is a solid event frozen in the amber of eternity. At that specific coordinate, the light is still shining, the laughter is still ringing out, and the love is still being felt. If you had a spaceship that could navigate the time dimension, you could travel back to that coordinate and find it exactly as you left it. The tragedy of human existence is not that people disappear. It is that we are trapped on a train that only moves in one direction. We cannot turn back to visit the stations we have left behind, but the stations are still standing. This realization transforms the nature of grief. Grief is usually rooted in the idea of absence. We cry because we think the person is missing from the universe. But eternalism corrects this. They are not missing, they are elsewhere. The totality of their life, their world line, is a completed thread in the tapestry of the cosmos. A thread that stops weaving does not undo the weaving that came before. A song that ends does not mean the notes never existed. The song is a structure of sound that occupies a specific duration. Once the song is over, the silence follows, but the song itself remains a permanent object in the history of the room. A human life is a song in space-time. It has a beginning and an end, but the melody is eternal. Consider the God's eye view of the block universe again. Looking down at the entire loaf of bread, we see the long, winding worm of your life. We see the point where your worm intertwines with the worm of a loved one. For a span of time, perhaps decades, the two worms run parallel, twisting around each other, interacting, sharing the same space. Then, at a certain point, one worm stops. It does not continue into the future sections of the block. From the perspective of the moving spotlight, this looks like a tragedy. You are moving forward alone into the dark. But from the perspective of the whole block, the entanglement is unbreakable. The section where you were together is an indestructible part of the universe's architecture. No amount of time passing can scrub that section away. It is written in stone. This offers a form of secular immortality. We often search for immortality in the future we want to live forever, or we want our souls to carry on. But eternalism offers immortality in the structure of existence itself. You do not need to live forever to be eternal. You just need to exist at all. Once a moment happens, it joins the permanent collection of the universe. Your actions, your kindness, your mistakes, and your triumphs are not fleeting ripples in a pond. They are the water itself frozen into ice. In this sense, nothing is ever truly lost. The library of the universe burns no books. It simply stores them on shelves that are out of our reach. This perspective can be incredibly comforting, but it requires a surrender of the ego. It requires us to stop identifying solely with the now. We are so obsessed with the cutting edge of the present that we forget the vast body of the past that supports us. We feel like we are balancing on a tightrope over a void, when in reality, we are standing on a mountain of granite. The past is the mountain. It is solid ground. The fact that you cannot change it is the price you pay for the fact that you cannot lose it. If the past were malleable, if it could be rewritten or erased, then your memories would be lies and your love would be precarious. The rigidity of the block universe is what guarantees the reality of your history. Furthermore, eternalism reframes the fear of our own death. We fear death because we imagine it as a state of being trapped in the dark forever. We project our consciousness into the void of the future and shudder at the emptiness. But Epicurus, the ancient philosopher, anticipated the wisdom of the block universe when he said, "Where death is, I am not. Where I am, death is not." In the block universe, your life is bounded. There is a start coordinate and an end coordinate. Outside of those coordinates, you do not exist. But within those coordinates, you are alive forever. You are not dead in the year 3000, any more than you are dead in the Andromeda galaxy. You just aren't there. You are here, in your time, in your life. The non-existence before your birth is the same as the non-existence after your death. And just as you do not mourn the eons before you were born, you need not fear the eons to come. Your time is your garden, and it is enclosed by walls, but within those walls, the flowers bloom eternally. This philosophical shift also changes how we live our lives today. If every moment is permanent, then every moment matters. We tend to treat the present as a means to an end, a stepping stone to some future goal. We rush through our days, waiting for the weekend, waiting for retirement, waiting for the good part. But if the block universe is real, then the waiting is just as preserved as the arrival. The boring Tuesday afternoon is a permanent fixture of reality. The argument you had with your spouse is a permanent scar on spacetime. The moment you stop to look at the sunset is a permanent jewel. This knowledge burdens us with responsibility, but it also endows us with meaning. We are not writing on water. We are carving in marble. We are building the monument of our lives, 1 second at a time. When Einstein wrote to the Besso family, he was asking them to zoom out. He was asking them to stop looking at the timeline through the narrow slit of the now and to try, for just a moment, to see the whole tapestry. In the tapestry, Michele Besso was not missing. He was there, woven into the fabric of the early 20th century, holding Einstein's hand, debating physics, living a full and complete life. The thread had ended, but the pattern it created was indelible. So, as we navigate the strange waters of this theory, let us find solace in the solidity of the block. The intuitive view of time tells us that everything is fleeting, that beauty fades, and that we are all marching toward oblivion. But the physics view tells us that everything is eternal. The beauty you see today is yours to keep forever in the coordinates of this moment. The love you give is a permanent addition to the weight of the universe. And when we finally reach the end of our own world lines, we do not fall off the edge of reality. We simply complete our shape. We become a finished work of art, suspended in the timeless gallery of the cosmos, safe from the erosion of the years, safe from the fading of the light. We are, in the truest sense of the physics, eternal. We have reached the summit of our climb. For the past 9 sessions, we have labored through the dense forests of relativity, navigated the treacherous currents of entropy, and stared into the abyss of determinism. We have dismantled the clockwork of our intuition piece by piece until the comfortable illusion of the flowing river was drained away. Now, we stand at the precipice of understanding, looking out not at a world that changes, but at a world that is. It is time to step out of our human skin, out of our biological constraints, and view the cosmos from the perspective of eternity. It is time to see the block universe not as a theory, but as a cathedral, a vast, silent, and terrifyingly beautiful structure that hangs suspended in the void, complete, perfect, and timeless. From this vantage point, the God's eye view we have alluded to so often, the confusion of our daily lives dissolves. We see the universe not as a sequence of events flickering in and out of existence, but as a single, solid object. It is a 4-dimensional crystal, faceted with galaxies and veined with the glowing world lines of infinite lives. At one end of this crystal, there is the jagged, white-hot point of the Big Bang, the singularity from which the geometry of spacetime erupted. At the other end, there is the cold, silent expanse of the thermal equilibrium, the heat death, where the structure fades into maximum entropy. Between these two poles lies the entire history of existence, frozen in the amber of physics. In this view, the struggle of history vanishes. The rise and fall of empires, the collisions of stars, the evolution of species, these are not active processes. They are static, geometric patterns. The spiraling arms of the Milky Way are not spinning like a pinwheel. They are a fixed, helical structure twisting through the block like a staircase. The orbit of the Earth around the Sun is not a journey. It is a corkscrew shape, a helix of gravity woven into the fabric of the cosmos. The wars we fought, the loves we cherished, the moments of despair and the moments of triumph, they are all there, etched into the crystal like intricate carvings in a block of ice. They do not move, they do not fade, they simply occupy their specific coordinates, contributing to the structural integrity of the whole. This brings us to the ultimate definition of time. The physicist John Archibald Wheeler once famously said, "Time is nature's way of keeping everything from happening at once." In the context of the block universe, this is not a joke. It is a description of spatial distribution. If all events existed at the same coordinate, the universe would be a singularity of chaos. Time is the dimension that separates the birth of a star from its explosion, just as space is the dimension that separates New York from London. Time is the shelf space that allows the library of the universe to display its collection without piling all the books on top of one another. It is a mechanism of order, a way to display the being of the universe in a sequential format for the benefit of observers like us. But the ultimate reality is timeless. To the universe itself, there is no waiting. The universe does not wait for a star to form. The star is already formed at coordinate X. It does not wait for you to be born. You are already born at coordinate Y. The universe holds the beginning and the end in a single, simultaneous embrace. It is like a music score. When you listen to a symphony, you experience it note by note, moment by moment. You feel the tension build and the resolution arrive. But to the conductor holding the sheet music, the entire symphony exists at once. The opening chord and the final crescendo are present on the same page, visible in the same glance. The symphony does not happen to the conductor, it is. The block universe is the sheet music of God. We are the notes, feeling ourselves being played in sequence, unaware that the song was written and printed before the first instrument sounded. This realization forces us to reconsider our place in the cosmos. We are not the creators of reality. We are the travelers. We are consciousnesses moving along a track that has already been laid. We are tourists in a museum that never closes and never changes. The flashlight of our awareness illuminates the exhibits one by one, creating the illusion of a tour, but the exhibits are stationary. This might make you feel small, perhaps even helpless. If we are just travelers on a fixed rail, what is the point of the journey? The point is the experience of the journey. The fact that a mountain is stationary does not diminish the awe of climbing it. The fact that a book is already written does not ruin the thrill of reading it. In a way, the rigidity of the block universe elevates the importance of the conscious observer. Without us, without the spotlight of awareness, the universe would be a dark, unobserved crystal in the void. It would exist, but it would not be felt. We are the mechanism by which the universe tastes its own existence. We are the sensory organs of the block. Our joy, our sorrow, our surprise, and our curiosity are the only things that give the block texture. We are the flame that warms the ice. As we look at this crystalline reality, we must also make peace with the idea of destiny. The script is written, yes, but it is a script of immense complexity and grandeur. The atoms that make up your body were forged in the hearts of ancient stars that died billions of years ago at a specific location in the block so that they could travel along their world lines to meet at the coordinate of your conception. The chain of causality that led to you is a golden thread stretching back to the Big Bang. You are not an accident. You are a necessary geometric feature of the space-time manifold. If you were removed from the block, the structure would collapse. The laws of physics require you to exist exactly where and when you do. You are an inevitable part of the artwork. This perspective also heals the wound of impermanence. We suffer because we try to hold on to moments that are designed to be past. We try to freeze the river, not realizing that we are the ones moving. The block universe tells us that we don't need to hold on. The moment is safe. The childhood you mourn is not gone. It is safe in the early sections of your world line. The friends you lost are safe in their own coordinates. The universe is a preservation machine. Nothing falls out of the block. Nothing is deleted. The you of 10 years ago is still there, suspended in that slice of time, eternally young, eternally hopeful, eternally experiencing that specific now. You have simply moved your focus to a new page. So, how do we live with this knowledge? How do we walk through the grocery store, or drive to work, or kiss our children goodnight, knowing that we are trapped in a frozen hyper-rectangle? We live with a sense of dual citizenship. We are citizens of the illusion and citizens of the truth. We must respect the illusion because it is our biological reality. We must plan for the future, learn from the past, and make choices as if we are free, because our brains are wired to play the game of becoming. But in the quiet moments, in the depth of the night, we can embrace the truth of being. We can look at the stars and realize that the light hitting our eyes is a bridge across time, connecting us to events that are happening now in the reference frame of the photon. We can look at our hands and see the dust of the cosmos arranged in a temporary pattern that is destined to scatter, yet eternally preserved in this specific configuration at this specific time. We can find peace in the fact that we do not have to carry the weight of the world because the world is already holding itself up. We don't have to build the future. We just have to be brave enough to walk into it. The block universe is a testament to order. It replaces the chaos of the unknown with the serenity of the completed. It tells us that the universe is not a messy draft, scribbled and erased by a confused author. It is a masterpiece, signed and framed. The timeless reality is not a void. It is a plenum, a fullness. It is full of every heartbeat that ever beat and every thought that was ever thought. As we conclude this series, remember that you are a four-dimensional being. You are not just a point in space, you are a line in time. You are a structure that spans decades. Do not judge your life by the single slice you are experiencing right now. Judge it by the shape of the whole worm. Judge it by the integrity of the line you are drawing through the block. Even if the path is fixed, the line can be beautiful. Even if the song is written, it deserves to be sung with all the breath in your lungs. The illusion of time is the most persistent and convincing magic trick ever performed. It convinces us that we are dying, when in physics, we are merely extending. It convinces us that we are alone in the present, when in physics, we are surrounded by the crowded halls of history. It convinces us that the end is coming, when in physics, the end is just another coordinate, no different from the beginning. So, stop fighting the current. There is no river, there is only the landscape. The mountains behind you are still standing. The valleys ahead are already waiting. You are here, in this slice, in this moment, exactly where the laws of the universe dictated you must be. And in this moment, you are infinite. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the dimensions. It has been a long travel from the speed of light to the stillness of eternity. I hope you look at your clock a little differently tomorrow. I hope you find comfort in the block. Good night, fellow travelers. Sleep well in the space-time continuum. I'll see you in the next video.